to be talking about stalkers and cyberstalking. And this is in conjunction of narcissism. I go ahead and make my disclaimer up front. Never been a victim of stalking. If you're not interested in stalking, if you don't care about stalking, if you think stalking is non-existent, it's bullshit, stop right now. Don't even listen any further because the things that I'm about to say you will never understand unless you've been a victim of stalkerism. You will never understand if you've never been affected in any kind of way when it comes down to being stalked. Okay, so there's a good chance I'm going to have to do this broadcast in a few series only because I have limited of time, but I felt that it was a good idea to put this video out there because there's a lot of people, unfortunately, who are victims of stalkism, and they don't really have a voice that is being heard to the point where people are taking them seriously. And believe it or not, stalkism is linked to narcissistic linking fantasy. Okay, that means that a person wants to feel special or loved or even admired by superior or destined to be with somebody who's superior. So, yeah, so yeah, so going back to what I was saying, the reason why, if you're a victim of being stalked, and you know what, to be honest with you, I have to look a little bit further, as you know that my channel is about astrology. Go get ready. Yeah, make sure you're ready. So yeah, so my channel is about astrology, and a narcissism, it seems like, and then it's also spirituality. So say this, if you're into spirituality and you know about stalkism and you know about the climate that we're in right now in regards to technology, I feel, due to the fact that even myself, you know, the truth of the matter is, I've actually been a victim of being stalked. And I was a victim of being of stalked. I was stalked for I think it was about almost 5 years. I was stalked, and I'll tell you about the story. I'll put my story out there on another time because I don't have time. But due to the fact that I was a victim of being stalked, I was stalked, and the stresses of life, the things I had to put on hold, the different arrangements I had to make just on everyday living. I had to be like I had to shift around a lot, because um I was, experiencing stalkism, and the energy, unfortunately, thank God, and like I said, I'm into spirituality, so I believe in God. A lot of people who's probably listening don't. You're atheist, whatever, whatever you're into, that's fine. But going through the stalkism, it was to the point where, even if the police was called, I had witnesses, I've got my protection, different various forms of protection I had to arm myself with. Um, Even after all that, all the things that I thought that I could do on the physical level, it wouldn't stop. It wouldn't stop the stalker from doing what he needed to do. Okay. And unfortunately, it's to the point where I feel like even where I'm at right now, the experience that I had with stalkism, it's affected me to the point where here I am even doing this channel right now. And certain precautions because victim of being stalked, you realize that it's a thin line. It's a thin line between, well, for some reason, the mentality of a stalker is they feel like Um, in some way or another, like the victim of stalkism, especially when you're dealing with social media and cyber worlds and stuff like that. As you know, there's a lot of people out there who are vlogging these days. There's a lot of people, just putting themselves out there willy-nilly. And maybe the reason why they're doing that is because they don't feel threatened, they don't have this issue. So exposing their life and their children's life and them it means nothing to them because they've never probably been stalked, or they're being stalked right now, but they don't realize how dangerous um can turn to, you know if things get out of hand. And I have a story that I'm going to read. I don't think I'm going to have time to read it, but man, he was a wealthy man. He lived in a well-to-do neighborhood, and everything was up to par. He was fine and everything. He had it's an article. It's actually a case that happened. And just to make a long story short, he was stalked for about a year. And it got to the point where the stalker pretty much clocked him. He knew his habits, he knew what he liked, he knew what time he would leave the home. He knew everything about him because he strategically studied this man for about a year. It was to the point where he actually planned an abduction that turned into, unfortunately, the man losing his life. Um, And the reason why I believe that, the man lost his life, and the man did report that he was being stalked. He did tell other people about it, but people really didn't take him seriously. And I don't think that the man actually took the situation seriously either. The man got abducted, and, during the abduction, it was a struggle. Arm was let loose. The man was shot in his arm. And while he was abducted and taken away from his environment, the hospital because they would be caught. And they couldn't let him use the bathroom because they were afraid that he was escaped, so he defecated and he did things on himself. And they couldn't properly tend to his wound because they didn't have the information. They didn't know how to tend to his wound. And plus he was a heart patient, so every day he took his heart medicine. So all these things caused this man to, unfortunately, not be on this planet Earth anymore because he was a victim of stalkism. Man ended up dying, and even after the man died, um, the stalkers, they still tried to ransom money from the family. They never got the money, and they ended up going to jail, thank God. About it is that something that maybe at first to the stalker may have seemed like it was nothing, it was light. Unfortunately, it turned into something like an obsession. Okay. And I'm just gonna read some information here. Um, because I think that this is important, especially for people who are being stalked, and you understand the dangers and you know how you feel. You know how you feel snugged all the time, and how, things that normal people do, you're not able to do them because you have to take extra precaution. Well, I want you to know that, again, it's not your fault if you're going through this. And I believe it has something to do with astrology, which I'm trying to investigate and research that, because I believe that not everybody's going to be a victim of stalkism. A lot of people will never understand how serious this is. But in some kind of spiritual way, I think that, I don't know if it was something that happened in another lifetime where, something needs to be met, and there's reasons why you have to experience stalkism. Dealing with a stalker, okay, what happens at first, or they may feel in some way feelings of shame, okay, they may feel humiliated, um, they may feel like they have to defend themselves against some type of rage. in their life. And usually stalkers, the reason why the behavior fuels up is because a lot of times stalkers, they feel hurt. They feel like they've lost control of whatever situation it is. Or sometimes, especially when you're dealing with cyber stalking, sometimes these people can get jealous. Sometimes they can get jealous of maybe the person who's doing vlogs, or maybe a person who is on the internet, maybe communicating with others, teaching others. It's various different reasons why a stalker would be upset. And when they become upset and they become jealous, they like they start a mission, okay? And their mission is that they will do anything in their power to damage a person's character, to destroy their image. A lot of stalkers, they generally like to write a lot of poison emails and send them out around various different people. And stalkers are very tricky, especially when I've experienced it and I know exactly what they do and how they get down. Um, when you're dealing with a stalker and they're engaged and hurt and they're very upset and they're angered, what they will do is they will go around and they will pretty much devalue you or demean you or make fun of you, point out flaws. And they will do that to other people. Like they will show other people there's something that you're doing wrong, type of flaw that other people need to see. And or there's some kind of bad character because they've devalued you. So they'll like fluff up what they believe is a bad character about you. And that they'll do that because it's important for them to incorporate the process of devaluing you. And the reason why it's important for them to devalue you and go around and tell other people about you or the character or whatever they feel like is so annoying to them, that they have to turn other people like pretty much against you. And the reason why they do this is because they know that they're a stalker. And in order for them to be camouflaged um, by their behavior so other people can't see that they're really a stalker because other people are angry at this particular person, people to continue on with that behavior. Okay, so again, they'll motivate other people who probably ain't stalking a person like that, but they'll start devaluing the person and start, pretty much manipulating people around that person to believe that that person's so bad, people even have to keep an eye on that person. Sometimes the people around them, they don't even realize that, they're joining hands pretty much with the stalker. And without them, pointing out the stalker's behavior, without them, talking to the stalker and letting them know, this is a little bit out of hand. Okay, fine. You don't like what this person is doing. You don't like what this person is saying. You don't like how they live. That's fine. But you don't have to be on them every day. And when you're dealing with social media, and the way social media is designed these days is that, sometimes the stalker, for whatever reason, especially when you're dealing with cyber stalking, they feel like people crave some type of intensity from either a partner that they're in a relationship with, or just, people who admire them online. Okay, so for my research, it's saying that stalkers, they what they do is they start to mentally manipulate themselves to believe that people actually don't mind a little light stalking here and there. And the reason why they feel like people don't mind a little bit stalking here and there is because feel like the person put themselves out there to get a certain amount of attention. And believe it or not, just looking at the FBI reports and statistics and just things that they have gathered over times of people who have been victims of stalking, coming to find out, they're saying that 65% of psychotic stalkers, they were motivated by anger. 24% of them motivated by jealousy. And even though they're motivated by anger, they're motivated by jealousy, everything that the victim does gets on their nerves, 53% of stalkers actually blame the victim for them being stalked. So instead of them recognizing their behavior and realizing that, okay, you don't like this person, you don't like nothing that they do, you don't like the sight of them, or another, they start to condition their minds and they make themselves believe, well, the victim is to blame because they're being stalked. And the stalker almost comes to a point where they're like, okay, um, I don't like them. There's something that they did to offend me. And in order for me to protect other people, I have to keep a sharp eye. Ask him out there. I have to keep a sharp eye on the victim. I have to follow them around. I have to closely monitor them in the event they offend somebody else. This is the mind of a stalker. So no matter what the victim does to try to turn down the stalker, tell them to stop watching them, just leave them alone. If everything they do is sightless, disgusting, why don't the stalker just do themselves a favor and you go your way and the victim goes their way? But when you're dealing with stalkism and it's on a narcissistic level and there's narcissistic injury that nobody can see, only they feel like in order to protect others from whatever the victim has done to them, which is basically minding their own business and going by their life because of some type of jealousy that they were jealous of the person, they feel like they need to keep a sharp eye on them now. So now the stalker goes from watching them to stalking them to heavily monitoring them, and they could even go as far as following them. Okay, they go as far as following them. They go on this crazy range to find their address. And when they find the victim's address, a lot of times what they do is they put the victim's address out there so other people can know about that victim's address just in case the stalker comes around and they're stalking the address or stalking the victim at their residence. They really wouldn't be seen as a stalker because their address is out there. So again, they're able to be camouflaged. So when you're dealing with a stalker, they like to camouflage their behavior. And they camouflage it by inviting other people in some so-called hate campaign where they want to coach other people to monitor this particular person because for whatever reason the person is so monstrous that they need to be watched and stalked, and you need to listen to everything that they're doing, you need to watch their every move and everything that comes along with it. Now when it comes down to stalking and watching someone, I don't take lightly like a lot of people do. As you heard the story that I just mentioned about the guy unfortunately losing his life because of something that appeared innocent at first, which pretty much turned into an obsession for the stalker. And the reason why it turns into an obsession is because the stalker, for whatever reason, they feel like they've been rejected, and they feel like, their rejection was devalued by somebody who they didn't find value in. So, it's like when they feel like, okay, they stalked you and you didn't pay attention to it, they instead of them, realizing, okay, I don't want anything to do with that person, doesn't want anything. If you feel like that person is so low, you devalued them, why not just leave them alone? But to a stalker, their devalue is like a narcissistic injury, and it's so deep to the point where they feel like, this person was unworthy. Them turn me down. So they'll pretty much stay on your ass until they feel like whatever revenge they have or whatever plots they have will hurt you so much that will equate to their process of devaluing the victim. So, like I said, as much as people want to deny it, the truth of the matter is stalkers are very jealous people. And there is something that probably the victim has, whether it be a style of clothing, dress, the way you walk, talk, the family that you have, the job, the career, the material possessions, money, whatever it is that the stalker sees that the victim has. After a while, instead of them being okay and understanding that's the path that that person is living, and that's their business, whether they have a lot or they have little, they feel like that person, due to the fact that they devalued that person in their minds, they feel like that person does not deserve to be happy, be free, to enjoy the possessions and things that they have, because the stalker feels like for whatever reason they deserve it. And they feel like they deserve it because stalkers, when a stalker starts to get to that point where, they feel like you're not paying attention to them, um they'll devote a lot of time and energy into watching and monitoring you. And no matter where you go, no matter what you do, these people will literally follow you around, stalk the shit out of you on the internet, just watch you, watch your every move. And it will get to the point where they know about you more than you even know about yourself. And wrap this up. I'll unfortunately have to do another part 2 of this, but I'm just going to end it by saying this. When you're dealing with a stalker and they've watched you to the point like that, sometimes they can even mimic your behavior. They'll start to mimic your movements, and they may even start to dress like you, do things like you. And what seems to be like a coincidence at first, you will start to see that it's stemming from somebody who has watched you to the point where they not unconsciously do the same things that you do. So we'll pick it up. Unfortunately, I got to go. I was only on a little short time. I figured let me just put this video in because I think that the subject is very important, especially for those who are victims of stalkism. If you're a victim, you know what it's like. Nobody else knows what it's like. And that's why when you're a victim of stalkism and you go and you tell people about your stories and you tell them what you're going through, they sometimes look at you like you're the crazy one, because they're not experiencing somebody watching their every move every day, just pretty much on their ass for whatever reason they don't even know. All right, so we'll pick it up again, and thank you for listening.